All right, I'm going to try to make this quick so that you guys can get to the fun. So I've started a new podcast with one of my good friends named Jacob. Jacob is an armorer. He's responsible for putting guns in some of the big blockbuster action movies that you guys have seen in the past, that are currently out now, and that will be out in the future. Me and Jake both love cars, guns, and movies. So we decided to come together and start a podcast called Pew Culture, where we talk about cars, guns, and movies. But more specifically, we talk about the guns used in our favorite action movies. I am that guy. I'm the guy who anytime I watch an action movie and I see a gun, I'm like, I know that gun, I know that gun, I have that gun, I have that gun, I don't have that gun. Yeah, that's me. And Jacob is the exact same way. So the name of the podcast is Pew Culture. And I'm going to put a clip here for you to watch. It's going to be a 3 to 4 minute clip. The actual podcast episode is 30 minutes. But I wanted you guys to see just a clip of it here first so that you can decide whether or not you want to go ahead and head over to Pew Culture, subscribe to the channel, and get all of the regular releases. This first episode is based around one of my favorite movies of all time, which is I Am Legend. So watch the little preview here and then click the link in the description section and subscribe to Pew Culture. That's where all the full-length episodes will be. I will be putting a couple of previews here over the next month or two, and then after that I'll stop, and you can watch all the episodes over there on Pew Culture. Enjoy. So you decide to verify that by unloading, 15 rounds in them?
Demonstrating the fear, the drama, all that stuff, yes. Also, lighting for the camera.
Oh. He was literally using his hand as a bounce.
Yep.
This podcast is rated PC for Pew Culture. Pew, 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 pew. Welcome to the first episode of Pew Culture. I got my man Jake with me. And of course, I'm Colion.
Wow.
What?
You fucked
I don't
up
walk around saying my name every day. So sometimes I don't say it.
It's because it's not actually your name.
That is actually kind of true, actually.
I'm Jake James, and this is Colion Noir, and I'm a better host than he is.
Here we go. Welcome to the first episode. All right, so me and Jake have known each other for quite some time now. Long time. And one day, I think I was with Peter. We were driving back from a course I was doing out in Teasdale, Utah.
I was feeding horses at the time.
Sounds about Jake. and we were just kind of talking about typical stuff that we normally talk about, because you and I tend to have overlapping interests in the way of, the funny thing is we have overlapping interests, but we enjoy them kind of sort of differently.
Yeah, you do it in a much more high-end fashion way, and I
just
do
say
it
bougie. You know that's what you really wanted to say.
Bougie way, and I do it in a normal white guy way. So there's that.
There's that.
We're just gonna get that straight out of the way.
But there's enough overlap where we can definitely see eye to eye on a lot of stuff.
You like Lamborghinis.
I do.
I like Dodge Vipers.
Exactly.
We both like big trucks that go fast.
Yes.
And we all appreciate a very expensive firearm from time to time.
This is the absolute truth.
Yep.
And we're both movie fanatics. And even that we enjoy. Like you're like a new movie nerd. I'm like a movie connoisseur. Like I wouldn't even say that. I'm like a movie consumer.
Okay.
Because
I can see that.
I'll readily watch movies mindlessly.
You have consumed all of the movies that I've worked on. And I, unfortunately, due to the job that I do, know way too much about every movie that comes out, so I can't consume it.
Why
but
the
I retain
fuck are you
knowledge.
speaking in code? Just say what it is you do.
Oh, guy. Well, so I own some companies. Okay. You may have heard of Leviathan Group.
Okay.
But on top of that, I work with directly with production companies, armorers, prop masters, and actors to build, develop, and design the weapons and gear that go into action movies.
That sounds like a very fun job.
It is. I actually really enjoy it. It's the favorite part of the thing that I do.
But considering that, I've always known that, and I figured, shit, I think we were on the phone for a while, I think. For about 2 hours.
Yeah.
No, I won't say 2 hours. Maybe an hour and 30 minutes or something like that.
Yeah. We were talking about things that we're not allowed to talk about.
Yes.
That was fun.
And so we thought it would be a great idea to turn the things that we can't really talk about into a podcast.
Absolutely.
Yes. So?
Break all the NDAs. Sorry, Sony.
So welcome to Pew Culture, where movies, guns, and Jake and Noir collide.
Man, that's a perfect way to put it.
That's why I get paid the big bucks.
And you know what?
Actually, we don't get paid at all for this right now.
When we were talking, SDI, Sonoran Desert Institute, coming at you. They are our sponsor for building guns.
Building guns.
And then I got the cred.
Oh,
Like,
you got
no, that's Prime, not
that-
cred. Sorry, South Park. We're getting sued?
Probably.
Okay.
I say we make it about 3 episodes in.
Okay, I'll hold off before we get in trouble from somebody.
Yeah, that's
So-
definitely probably gonna happen.
All right, first episode, and we were talking about what's going to be one of the most iconic things that we can start with to kind of dip our toe in the water, right?
Okay.
And in most episodes that we've talked about, we're gonna have multiple guns to cover.
Yes.
But this gun right here is literally a movie character all by itself.
Yep.
And that's what makes movie guns, real movie guns, the best, is when they have their own personality, their own screen time, and their own story.
Yep.
And there wasn't much better than the Colt from I Am Legend.
Yeah, it's weird to me because I've never hid from the fact that a large portion of the guns that I buy are because of the ones I've seen in movies. I don't hide from it. I don't run from it. I love it. Right? I have an innate ability to suspend disbelief. Right? So for me, and the impact that I Am Legend had on me, right? Inevitably that transferred over into the firearm that he was carrying, clearly for obvious reasons, right?
Now, Colion, why did I Am Legend have such an impact on you?
Now I was going to turn into a therapy session. All right. So here's the thing. I, like every other gun guy for the most part, we kind of wax poetic about the idea of the end of times or, apocalyptic scenarios, right?
Oh, yeah.
So for me, I've always looked at it from a standpoint of I'm a city boy. You like living in a country where no one's around, just a lot of country shit.
Desolate wastelands.
Yes. Where I'm like, I want police sirens. I want random people screaming down the street. I want big buildings around me. I like the metropolitan cities, right?
Yeah. No, I'm good on that.
Yeah, see, and that's the thing. But, so for me, when I think apocalypse, that's what I, like, to me, I Am Legend represented the closest thing I could possibly ever encounter as far as an apocalyptic situation.
Well, and so there's so many good movies in that genre, right? You think, and one great film that actually inspired so much of what I Am Legend did was 28 Days Later.
Which I love.
Same style, right?
Yeah,
that big, desolate, open wasteland, but zombies.
Yep.
And I Am Legend is much more intelligent. Really, and if you go back to the book, I Am Legend, they're vampires and they talk and it's way worse. Like, it's so much creepier. It's so much more terrifying. Like, the book is on a whole nother level of fucked up, where I Am Legend dulled it down for the consumer, which is why it's still, it's still dark. It still has the #1 most heart-wrenching scene in a film of all time, which we won't talk about because it's awful. But that dulled it down just enough for the consumer to be a blockbuster. And that is the biggest thing that action films, especially action films, things like World War Z, things like 28 Days Later, they typically become this cult classic and this hit at home where you can really consume it, but it doesn't have the largest box office opening of a December in the history at that time in 2007. It doesn't have a $150 million budget. Like, these films are typically made for, a very specific set of consumers, while I Am Legend did almost 600 million globally. Like, it was made for everyone. And it was one of the very first action/horror/post-apocalyptic films that was able to do it. And then movies like Mad Max Fury Road came in and they took it to the next level. But there's so much, like, all of these things were built to be replicated. And now there's a format for those post-apocalyptic films, which is why they're so popular now. And they do so much better than they used to. It's funny because I Am Legend was actually supposed to be made multiple times and failed every time. Ridley Scott was the original director in the 90s. And Arnold Schwarzenegger was going to be the main actor.
Which I don't think would have worked.
It wouldn't.
Now I have the hindsight of seeing the Will Smith version.
Well,
But-
and let's be honest, Arnie had some bad failed movies in the 90s, which is why they eventually canned this. But then it went on, and Guillermo del Toro was supposed to be a director of this. Imagine if Guillermo had gotten his hands on this film with his style. It would have been a much different kind of movie. Not a bad one, because what Pan's Labyrinth and what movie has Guillermo failed at? He's none. But at the end of the day, like, this has been tabbed so many times, and it was so hard to make that you eventually got to the point where actually Arnold Schwarzenegger wanted to be tabbed in this so bad. He was at one point a producer and hired Will Smith to do this movie as the main actor. Then he fell off. Will took it. Will went to Guillermo and asked him to direct. He said, I can't because I'm doing another film, but here's all my ideas for how the Dark Seekers should look. So there's his impact on how the film is. Eventually, they got their main director. They got this going. It came out. It became a blockbuster hit. We've tried to reboot it. We've tried to bring out sequels so many times because of how big it was. And it wasn't just until last year that now we got Michael B. Jordan on board. We got Will Smith back on board, which I'm not talking about how that works or how we're going to do that. But
I mean, I don't see why we should. I mean, it'll be interesting to say the least.
well, and I mean, it's one of those things where people, like, that's part of the intrigue, right?
Yeah.
How are we going back to this universe and the main actor who, spoiler alert, FYI, this movie's been out since 2007, so we're going to talk about whatever we want. Like, if you've never seen it, don't watch this. But Will Smith blows himself up.
Yeah.
He sacrifices himself
Allegedly.
to save the... Allegedly. I mean, he was holding a grenade in a small room. Allegedly. And there is, let's not forget either, there's two endings. Like,
There is.
Which is also controversy because no one knows which one is the real ending in real life. So it is what it is, like, but we're moving into that universe, and you better guarantee they're going to bring back one of their biggest actors, right?
They kind of,
You got to bring back one of the biggest keys to this, and that is the Colt 6920 law enforcement.
So I'm going to ask this question. Do you think it would be doing a disservice if, with the reboot, they came back with a more modernized version of this?
Yeah, because the world stopped. How are you going to have modernized versions of anything? We're not manufacturing firearms anymore.
It's true. The gun guy part of me, right?
I get it.
The gun guy part of me would like to see, because I love this gun. I love this gun not because I think it's just not because I think it's a good gun.
No,
like
it's an okay gun.
It's the weird thing about it though is I think with the modernization of ARs,
Yep.
I think they've gotten heavier.
In some cases, yes.
Yes.
I mean, billet is always going to be heavier than forged.
Exactly.
That's just part of the way that it's manufactured.
But the thing that always drew me to this, the Colt pattern, this style, was how light it was.
Yep.
And just, it's very simple, very light, and just does what it needs to do. There was something endearing about that. And I think that was part of the reason why it kind of spoke to me and called to me when I saw Will Smith running it.
Well, and Will carried it. That's a thing that you think about too when you get into, hey, I'm designing something for a movie. There's a whole bunch of things that you have to consider, right? Time period. I can't work on a World War II piece and bring something modern into it.
That's true.
What year did the world stop if it's post-apocalyptic? We do this all the time, right? We did the terminal list. And on the flashbacks of those terminal list scenes, you have to think, oh, Ben Edwards or any of the characters, what would he have been carrying in 2012 that was correct for that branch of the military or that branch of contractors? And you have to go rebuild that because it's canon and you can't have a brand new firearm that, like, we just did this, right? We're working on a film where they're like, hey, we need you to design us a spy computer from 2007. It's like, I don't even know what brand of computer was available in 2007. They're like, it can't be, no Apple, none of that. It has to be, it has to run, DOS or whatever. And I'm like, okay, so that's half the job is research.
Gotcha.
And so you go back and you say, okay, what would an Army virologist in New York have access to? And so that's why the Colt 6920 is picked, not because it was the best available, platform, but then you look at the other guns that show up throughout the film, right? The Beretta 92 FS, which shows up in every movie ever made. We'll talk about it in Die Hard. We'll talk about it in like Book of Eli. It's in everything, but there's a reason why it's in everything, and it's because